once we were reading this, it immediately had a connection with us because I said we look for social expressions, and immediately this particular play had a connection with us because we felt this is what is happening today. We talked amongst ourselves that this man, who is an out and out political revolutionary, a poet, cannot be writing a simple play on love, hate, and betrayal at a time when he was actually moving from one hiding to another. That's not possible. As far as the acting skills part of it, most of our actors are prepared. But then comes to prepare for the role and the play. So that was the 6 months preparation that we talked about. So we would read the play multiple times within the group, try to understand what's there in between. So that's more a tabletop exercise. We sit down and say, for example, you said freedom. So there are very strong element of the yearning for freedom within the story.
Hola y bienvenidos otra vez a mi canal de YouTube Español por Dentro. Como siempre estoy aquí con un invitado especial, esta vez del campo del arte, del teatro. Estoy aquí con el dramaturgo, señor Shomik Ray. Hello, Mr. Shomik. Thank you so much for being here.
It's a pleasure.
So, Shomik Roy obviously is a person who maybe understands a little bit of Spanish, but he's more comfortable in English. So, we're going to do this interview in English with Mr. Shomik. So, just to let you all know a little bit about Shomik. Shomik is a public health researcher by profession, but his passion lies in theatre. After having worked with various groups and directors in Kolkata and Delhi, he, along with some like-minded enthusiasts, set up Shapno Ekhon, about which we're going to, of course, talk a lot in this interview. Back in 2009, Shapno Ekhon has emerged as a major theatre group in Delhi, and its work on heritage education has been acknowledged by the community, experts, and media. He has acted, directed, and penned more than 50 plays with Shapno Ekhon and has been honored with numerous awards at the national level for various aspects of theatre, including acting, direction, and production. He experiments with various forms and designs and believes in theatre for social change. Plays written by Shomik have been published by leading theatre journals of India. With such a fantastic body of work and recognition, once again, Shomik, it's an absolute honor for me to host you on my channel. Thank you so much for coming here.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure for me as well.
So, Shomik, before we really get started with your profession as such, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you grew up and how theatre, when you were growing up, what kind of influence did it have on you?
Right. So I grew up in Kolkata, and so I spent a big time of my childhood and my education was in Kolkata. And I went to school, I went to St. Xavier's Collegiate School in Kolkata. And my influence in theatre was from my school. So St. Xavier's had a very active cultural sort of a background to it. So we grew up with a lot of cultural activities. And theatre was one of the main cultural activities in school. And so it obviously came from our teachers. So it was the annual day every year, and theatre was an integral part of it. So that's from where my love in theatre grew, I must say. And when I completed my school, I went into college. I got into more serious theatre. So we had a theatre club, as in most other colleges you do have. So we had a dramatics club, and where we started doing more serious theatre. And St. Xavier's College has a very rich heritage of stalwarts in theatre being part of it. So like Utpal Datta was an alumni of St. Xavier's, and he has been part of the dramatic club in St. Xavier's. So it always had a very rich heritage in theatre. So in school, of course, it was English and Bangla theatre. When we moved to college, it was primarily English. And And then, of course, one gets busy in higher education and the early days of career. So there was a break from there. And my major work in theater started when I moved to Delhi. So I moved to Delhi in 2004. And what happens when you normally move to a new place, you get into a sort of you experience a culture shock. It's a very new place, and North India is India. you know the type of people I grew up with, that people were around. And please understand that cities were not so cosmopolitan as they are today.
Mm-hmm.
Even those days, we did say that cosmopolitan cities, but only when you move to another place you understand that how less cosmopolitan you were where you were previously. So Delhi was, in true sense, cosmopolitan, and it took me time to find my feet in the city. And so it took me about a couple of years. And my son was very small at that time. And the primary concern that we had was that how shall we hold on to the roots of our culture, to my language, primarily. And what happened was, at that time, the first people you start knowing are the parents of your children, because they start going to school. And then you find a lot of parents with children of similar age, and many of them have recently moved to Delhi, and they all have similar concerns. And so there came together a group of parents, and we became friends,
Mhm.
about six or seven of them. And then we started thinking, what can we do? And I had an inclination towards theater, and an opportunity came. In I stay in CR Park, and we stayed in CR Park, which is known as a mini Kolkata, sort of a Bengali settlement within Delhi. And so you have these community festivals, the pujas. And in one of these pujas, I was asked whether I can present a play with children. And so that was the beginning, basically. So we started with the children, and we presented a children's play in one of these pujas. And so gradually that started growing more and more. Other children started getting interested, their parents started getting interested, and started sending their children to us. And then we thought, why not come together formally as an organization? And within this group of friends that we had, there were people who were interested in poetry, people who were interested in painting, so various interests, and everybody was looking for an outlet. And of course, I'm moving from your question to the other parts of it. So, and then we set up this organization, and we thought, why not create a platform where people would be able to come and express themselves in
Right.
creative ways, whichever way they want to.
Right.
And that's how Shapno Ekhon was formed. Yeah.
Yeah, right, right. In fact, yeah, I was about to ask you this question. But firstly, please correct me if my pronunciation of the organization is not quite correct. It's Shapno Ekhon. Is that right?
Yeah, it's Shapno Ekhon.
Shapno Ekhon.
Ekhon. So Shapno in Bengali means dream,
Dream. Hmm.
as in sapna in Hindi.
Yes.
And Akhon is now, Yeshan.
Right,
So
right,
dream
right.
now. So if you
Dream now.
translated it into English, it would be dream now.
Okay,
So that's
okay.
what the name means.
Right,
And now, once we started moving into other languages and other domains,
right,
we call it SE. So that becomes easier for people.
right.
So we've been starting to call it SE. So
Hmm.
that's how it is.
So
Yeah.
Shapna Ekhon. So
Huh.
a lot of my viewers would be curious to know why I'm doing an interview with you, being an Indian playwright on my Spanish channel, because predominantly our channel is related
Mm.
to Spanish. So let me tell you, viewers, we are interviewing Shomik Roy because he has a connection with the Hispanic world. Because in a few days' time, his organization Shapno Ekhon is going to stage a play called The House of Bernarda Alba, La Casa de Bernarda Alba, by the famous Spanish playwright Federico Garcia Lorca. And of course, we are going to talk about that in detail later on. So that is the reason why. Shomik is here on Espanol por Dentro, the YouTube channel. So, Shomik, you talked very nicely and in very vividly about your growing up years in Calcutta and then when you came to Delhi. So, apart from what all you mentioned, what is there any other personal dream or motivation that inspired you to create Shapna Ekhon as a space where the creativity takes over the everyday life? Tell us a little bit more about it.
Yeah. So as I said, the beginning was very usual. So we started doing plays with children, and then many of us we found that we were looking for uh, ways of expression. So I was interested in theater. One of my friend was interested in poetry. Somebody was interested in painting. So we thought, why not create something where people would be able to come and express themselves in whichever way, apart from what they are doing as part of their livelihood throughout the day. And that's how the organization was formed. But I must say the organization has evolved over the years. Now, what happened is once we started the organization, people started joining in. And interestingly, many of us were development sector workers. So I come from a development sector background, so that's my regular work. And many of the people, of the friends who came in, were development sector workers. So we had that, I would say, the development sector orientation very strong within the organization. And so what happened was, of course, gradually with children's plays, we ourselves started acting with adult populations and adults. And the way it happens with most theater groups, we would pick up classics, we would pick up plays which are famous plays as part of a theater journey. So we did Ibsen, and we did Chekhov. So all of that we started doing. And but I would say sort of um, a change came over uh, after 2012 when the Delhi Nirbhaya case happened. You know, so that was a sort of I would say a big moment for us where
Mm-hmm.
things changed. Now, what was happening was at that time we were doing a play called Captain Hurra by a playwright called Mohit Chattopadhyay, and we were rehearsing for that. And at that time, the events in Delhi were happening. And many of us, in our professional capacity and personal capacity, were involved with the movement that was happening in Delhi. You know,
Mm-hmm.
going for marches at India Gate and all those things. You know what was happening in Delhi around that time.
Mm-hmm.
And but our rehearsal space was almost like an insulated capsule. You know, we were spending a day in a different manner, and we would come into the rehearsal space, and almost as if nothing has happened, we would be rehearsing a play. And it was, and you can understand internally, it was almost a pressure cooker situation which was happening for us. And one day, it just burst out. So one of our senior members who works in the field of disability, and she was also part of this movement which was happening outside. And on that day, she was at Safdarjung Hospital, and there was a lathi charge which happened, the police, and some of her colleagues were injured and had to be taken to the hospital. And we had the rehearsal in the evening. So she came into the rehearsal space, and we were rehearsing as if nothing had happened, and we wouldn't be talking. Nobody would be talking anything about anything, and she suddenly burst out. So what are we doing? Like, why are we doing this? We are not in this. Our minds are not here. Our hearts are not here. And theater cannot be just for the sake of art. We cannot be coming in. We are a set of creative people. We are thinking something, and we are coming in here doing something absolutely not connected to what our lives are, what's happening outside in this world. And so it was almost a catharsis for the entire group, all the people there. And he said, true. We all felt like it, but nobody could say it. So actually, we stopped there, and we turned whatever play we were doing upside down, and we brought out our own creative expressions to what was happening outside into the play. So that was a watershed moment for us. And I would say the course of Shapno Ekhon changed from there. And we realized that we cannot be doing theater just like that. So it has to be socially responsible theater. And from there on, we started responding to our own needs for expression. So we devised a play which was in response to the Nirbhaya case incident. We did it in Hindi and Bangla, called Kahani Ke Us Par, Golpo Shesher Pore in Bangla. So what happens after the story? And from thereafter, one after the other, we kept on doing plays on violence against women, on gender issues. So we started responding to whichever way we needed to express. And around that time, for a long period in time, we stopped doing plays, which were, picking them up from classics or books. So we were either devising our own plays or writing our own plays, and it kept happening one after the other. So we did a play on the Park Street rape case called Manohar Kahaniya. We picked up real life stories of women from across India. So we were looking for women who have struggled, so we kept on doing one after the other. So that's how the organization evolved. And so that's why we say that we will do socially relevant theater. Our theater will only be that which we feel the need to express. So that's our politic, if I might say so.
Right, right. Very interesting. And while doing some research, I found that Shapno Ekhon has staged 44 productions and won 42 national awards as well. So, how has the growth of the group, matched or surprised your original expectations? I'm sure it must have given you great joy seeing the kind of recognition that it got.
Yeah. See, as I said, at a point it did overwhelm us. And even now it does, because we really didn't expect that in 15 years we would be doing so many plays. But as I said, it was not a planned sort of okay, we'll do this play today, this play tomorrow, that ways. So, it was more of sort of a generic need. Like once we did Kahani Ke Us Par, we found that we were still not happy. And, historically, we've been an organization with more women than men. Somehow that's how it has happened. And so once we did Kahani Ke Us Par on the Nirbhaya case incident, we sat together and people started saying, yes, we have responded to this, but we are not happy because we don't feel, and that play was about, the social space, the gender space, how women should be able to claim their own gender space. So we say that there should be gender equity and the gender space should be shared. So that play talked about that the first task should be reclaiming the space. And then you can, talk about equity and sharing. And then the group members sat together and said that, yes, we've done something on Nirbhaya, but we still don't have a story which gives the agency to the women. Because at the end of the day, Nirbhaya did not do anything for herself. She didn't survive to do anything for herself, right? So it was the people around who responded. Can we find somebody who has actually stood up and created that space for herself? And then we came across this story. What happened was the Park Street rape case, if you remember, somebody called Suzette Jordan, who was thrown out of a running car after being picked up from a nightclub. And why this is significant was she was the first woman in history to stand in court and say that I want to be known with my own name. Because as per the Indian Penal Code, you know that rape victims cannot be named.
Yeah.
Their faces cannot be shown. And she said that, no, I should not be known as the victim or the Park Street victim. I don't want any names like Nirbhaya, Abhaya, and all of that. I should be known by my own name, and my face should be shown, because it's not my shame, it's your shame. That was very significant. That's very, very significant. So when we picked up the story of Suzette, and unfortunately, by the time we picked the story up, Suzette had already passed away from illness. But we went to Kolkata, spoke and met with people who have been around this incident, organizations who worked with Suzette, and we devised a play called Manohar Kahaniya. And from there on, we were still looking for women who have created space for herself. And I want to tell you this story because this is very significant for us. We came across a photo documentary on internet, which was talking about a woman in Lucknow, and who had, sort of eloped with her lover and married. And she was from a lower caste, and the boy was from an upper caste. It's typical things that happen there. And the father's and the husband's father was a part of the police force, and so they were sort of tracked down by the police, and the father-in-law sexually assaulted the woman, the daughter-in-law, and all of that happened. And ultimately the husband also went against the woman, his own wife, deserted him. She walked out of the house, went to an NGO, and she was pregnant at that time. She filed a case against the father-in-law, and ultimately, after a long battle, she won. And this was an organization in Lucknow. I somehow found the telephone number of that organization and called them up and said that I've come across this particular incident. The name of the woman was Sudha Singh. I said, I've come across a name called Sudha Singh. Can you give me some contacts about this lady? And it was on the telephone. And the woman from the other side said, I am Sudha Singh. Tell me what you want. It still gives me goosebumps when I hear this. So she said, "Main Sudha bol rahi hu." So we did a story on her, we did a play on her, and we called the play "Main Sudha bol rahi hu" because that line was so powerful. And when we did the play in Delhi, Sudha actually traveled down from Lucknow. She came to Delhi with us. So that's how it has happened. So, so we kept on responding. So we did a play on the first woman Toto driver in Delhi, the e-rickshaw driver, the first woman e-rickshaw driver in Delhi. So we just met her on, there's this on CR Park. One day I found her, a woman driving a Toto. And one of our members just went and spoke to her. And that was such an inspiring story. So we said, we must do this. So plays started happening like that. And that's how we got so many plays. So sometimes it gets overwhelming. But yeah, so that's how that number comes up there.
Right. I think in a way you have sort of answered my next question as well. So Shomik, you conduct, or your organization conducts workshops for children and young people from diverse backgrounds. So how do you ensure that theatre becomes an inclusive tool for personality development? Could you talk a little bit about that?
Oh, yes. Actually, there are multiple things to it. This is linked to our other project on heritage education. So as I said, when we created the organization, our aim was to give a platform for anybody who wants any creative expressions. So people were free to do, create anything for themselves. So one of our senior members is very interested in heritage education, and she would organize these summer projects for children on different aspects of heritage. And so, CR Park has a lot of schools within and a lot of these government MCD schools as well as these high-end schools. And so these summer projects would be on certain issues. Say, for example, we did a project on the Yamuna. So the history of Yamuna, the current status of Yamuna, how Yamuna is used. So children would go to the Yamuna floodplains, speak to people who live there. They would go to libraries, museums, and look at Yamuna, speak to conservationists who would come to the studio and speak to our children. And then a culmination would be sort of their expressions on what they did for the whole month. So some of them would be drawing, some of them might be writing songs on it, and some of them would be devising theatre. As we are people from theatre, we would help them devise small little skits on that topic. So that kept on happening. And every summer, we would go to the schools around and speak to the parents there that for them to enroll. Now, this inclusive thing did not happen consciously, I must say. When we started getting the children, we got a mix of them. So there were students coming in from the public schools and also from the MCD and government schools in the locality. In the initial days, we were very apprehensive that how would these kids, gel with each other? Would there be some, things which you don't like within these
Mhm.
kids? Uh, but then, surprisingly, we found that unless we consciously put in something, the kids are not conscious. So we had kids from DPS, from Vasant Valley School, and from MCD schools working wonderfully with each other. And and we had a lot of first generation learners coming in here because that's how the MCD schools are. And and these kids were working wonderfully with each other. And we did not actually have to consciously do anything apart from the fact. And best thing was that we did not charge any money at that point in time. We took a very nominal, maybe 100 rupees or 200 rupees, which everybody could, afford. So there was no such thing that, is a big amount of money because we didn't need money as such because all of us were working elsewhere. So this was not our livelihood, right? So we just had to take some money to take care of the expenses that we had to do. So once the money was taken out of the equation, kids would come in freely. The parents were also very happy to let their children come in. And they were also amazed when these kids were working finally for their culmination presentation, how the
Mhm.
kids worked wonderfully with each other.
Mhm.
I must say that a big role in this was uh, our co-member who we are talking about, Shahana. She works in the disability sector. So she works a lot with children with disabilities. So she has a lot of experience of working with children with disabilities coming from various backgrounds. So she has that skill of working with children much more than any of us have. So the processes that she had put in, the workshops and the processes, made sure that they were very inclusive and there was no difference amongst people, amongst the children coming. But I must say that left on their own, children will ensure inclusivity, and it's more a factor that we put in from outside uh, artificially. So that would be my take from what we have done with children.
That's wonderful. I really like the aspect of the fact that you said that unless the children are consciously told the
Mm.
differences that exist, so at a societal level between them and some of the other group of kids, they don't find it on their own, and that's the purity of children at their age. That
Absolutely.
really. I can absolutely relate to that as well. Being myself a teacher in a school, so my next question, Shomik, is I would like to talk a little bit about the Neighborhood Diaries, an oral history project. It has produced two books. So what have been the most powerful or surprising stories that you can share with us a little bit, during this journey?
Mhm. So, see, this Neighborhood Diaries project started with children. So, Shana was conducting these annual heritage projects.
Mm-hmm.
So, one every year would happen. And then she came up with the idea that why don't we do something about our own neighborhood?
Mm-hmm.
And, because, Chittaranjan Park, Sia Park is traditionally a resettlement colony.
Mm-hmm.
And there are lots of first generation settlers in this colony.
Mm-hmm.
And so she was interested in documenting the oral history of the neighborhood. And so then we started thinking about it and conceptualized the thing. And they said, why don't we make it into a children's project? So the main aim was, yes, the first generation, the colony was set up in 1971, in 75, sorry. And yeah, 71, around that time. And it's already so many years. And the first generation, we are already losing the first generation. And there are a lot of stories of struggle, of a lot of effort of
Mm-hmm.
setting up a colony. And Sia Park used to be a barren, rocky land, inhabitable land.
Mm-hmm.
So why not try to document these stories? So we sent out a word amongst the schools around the locality, and we got a group of about 15 children. And what we did was we got some very senior people helping us as advisors in this project. So we had Dr. Swapna Little, who is a noted historian. We had Shomik Bandyopadhyay, and so similar historians who helped us conceptualize the project. And we spent a lot of time in training these children. So the children were trained about heritage education, and we gave them skills. So how to take interviews, so interviewing skills, and then how to bring out stories from narrators. And some of them were interested in drawing. So we got somebody to teach them how to convert these stories into comic strips, illustrations. So a lot of these skills were imparted to these children. And we identified narrators around the colony who had a lot of stories with them. So elderly people. And these children would go in groups and batches and interview these elderly people in the colony. That itself was a wonderful experience, I must say. So, if you look around in our childhood, we would go to school and come back and we would play in our colonies, in our neighborhoods. So we had friends in our neighborhoods. We would be playing on the streets or in the park. But now it doesn't happen. Children go to school somewhere else, they come back, they go to play somewhere else. Maybe a cricket coaching camp or a basketball camp or some other club. They go to play somewhere else. They go for music somewhere else. They don't connect with the neighborhood there. They can come back home to sleep. And this was a wonderful way where the children were coming back to the neighborhood. They were speaking to the elders in their colony. And the elders were actually getting a lot of time to speak to young people about their own stories, their childhood. So it was a wonderful experience of observing the elderly and the children interact with each other. So all these interviews were recorded. And at the end of the first phase, we did an exhibition in Siam Park with a lot of these stories. And families gave a lot of material. Maybe somebody gave a old cash book that they had in their home where they would write their daily expenses. Somebody would give old photographs. And a lot of stories emerged. So we did an exhibition in the first phase. And in the second phase, we started documenting these stories, the recordings which had come in, and they started being published as books. So we published the first book, which was called The Early Years of Siam Park, which gives stories about how the colony was set up. So a lot of interesting stories came up. So which was the first building being constructed in Siam Park? The story about that. How did that happen? Because it was a barren land. There was no water around. How did people get water for their constructions? Who started the first grocery shop in Siam Park? The first fish seller in Siam Park? How was the cultural life in Siam Park? How did the first library come about? So all these stories started coming together and we published the naming of the colony. How did Siam Park be named Chittaranjan Park? We never knew that there was a referendum in the colony which happened between two names. And there was a name called Purbachal, which actually won the referendum. So the name was supposed to be Purbachal, where a certain influential group actually got Mrs. Indira Gandhi, to intervene and change the name to Chittaranjan Park. We never knew it. So those things got documented, and the first book was published as Early Years of Siam Park. And the second book was published as it was a sort of a compendium of articles by members of the colony. So different senior members gave in their own experiences and articles that was edited and came up as a second book. So now next year we are about to publish the third book on the markets of Siam Park. So the history and the evolution of markets from the beginning till now. So step by step, we are coming up with these books. And along with it, we also organize heritage lectures. So on, not necessarily on Siam Park, but in general on heritage in India. So that's normally we do an online lecture where we have very famous people like William Dalrymple, Sohaib Hashmi. People like them have Dr. Narayani Gupta. She's also part of our Neighbourhood Diaries. So we do these regular lectures on heritage, different issues of heritage.
Wonderful. Fantastic. It's great to know, Shomik, such wonderful work that you and your team is doing to really make the present generation realize what kind of what kind of culture we have, and and reclaiming those spaces that we have come to know only superficially. So, for example, I've been to CR Park many times, but to be able to know a sneak peek of into its history with you in this interview is making me more interested in knowing about CR Park. So, because I guess, for a lot of us, CR Park is about, visiting the markets, eating those wonderful sweets, and during the Durga Puja to visit all the pandals that are there. But there is a lot more history to it than
Mm.
what we generally even care to notice. So now, shifting our focus towards what I feel
Yeah,
is the central part of this interview. You are going to host, or rather stage, the play La Casa de Bernarda Alba, which in English translates to the House of Bernarda Alba, by the famous Spanish playwright Federico Garcia Lorca. Firstly, tell us, Shomik, when and where is the play going to be staged? How can people get tickets for the play? And later on, what inspired you to choose doing this play, and somewhere your connection with Lorca, and what relevance does it have for audiences in Delhi today? I know too many questions, but
right.
we can go
No,
one by one.
I'll try to put it the way
Yeah.
in my own way. So first of all, the play is being premiered on the 13th of December
Mhm.
at the LTG Auditorium in Delhi, which is on Copernicus Marg, opposite Mandi House, and at 6:30 p.m. So the tickets are available on Book My Show, and you can also get in touch with us,
Mhm.
and tickets will also be available at the venue. So that's how, and we would love people to come in and watch, and we've also mentioned that we encourage students to come in and watch plays and watch theater. So we offer a discount of 10% across all ticket categories to students with valid ID cards of their education institutions.
Mhm.
So this is our way to encourage students to come and watch theater. So that's one. And second, why did we take this play and how this came about? So we have within our organization, we have a culture of regular theater practice. So, one is the physical practice of theatre, where we go through regular workshops, and all our members have to go through these mandatory workshops to prepare themselves for any theatre. Because for us, we believe that theatre is not just standing up on stage and acting. And so we conduct workshops for ourselves every Sunday morning. So all of us come together and do workshops and exercises on theatre. We have many members within our organization who have never been on stage, but they come for the workshops because they feel that it gives them a lot of happiness, and it helps them to develop. So this was a question you asked, that how students are benefited with theater,
Mhm.
and we've seen students becoming much more confident after theater. So what we keep on saying, that theater gives me a chance to live life twice, because the real life doesn't give you a chance. But theater is a safe space for me. Our studio is a safe space, and it teaches me, gives me lessons. If I make a mistake, there's no one judging me there, and no one telling me that you shouldn't have done this, you should have done that. So that gives us a safe space where we practice, and then we execute when we go out
Mhm.
in our lives. So we have many people within our group who have never been on stage, but they like being as part of it because they say it gives them a lot of self confidence. And we've seen children becoming very self confident, becoming much more, being able to public speaking, being able to express much more freely after theater sessions. So, anyway, so that's one part of our practice. The other part is we regularly read plays. So that's the academic part that we do. So we have a mentor with us in Mr. Shomik Bandopadhyay, who is a noted theatre and film scholar in Kolkata. So for many years, he has been taking weekly classes for us. And so we read theater basically with him and understand theater. So as part of that, we read classics, and about a year back, we started reading Lorca. And so we started reading his poetry, and we started reading different plays. So we read Blood Wedding and all other plays of Lorca. And then we came to The House of Bernarda Alba. And once we were reading this, it immediately had a connection with us, because I said you know, we look for social expressions. And immediately, this particular play had a connection with us because we felt this is what is happening today. This cannot be more relevant than it is today. And the best part of it was it's not evident. The play conceals more than what it reveals. And the situation, the setting of the play, the historical context of the play is so interesting. Lorca writes this play at the peak of the French Revolution, the Spanish Revolution, and he is killed a few months after that. Just about 3 months after that, Lorca is killed. And apparently, if you follow the storyline, the story is about love, betrayal, and hate. So we talked amongst ourselves that this man, who is an out and out political revolutionary, a poet, cannot be writing a simple play on love, hate, and betrayal at a time when he was actually moving from one hiding to another. That's not possible. So once you start reading through it, you realize that it's a very strong play about political oppression. And so we thought that we must take this play. And this is a sort of a situation we are going through now. Taking away freedom of expression, confinement. So everything that you see around, you can find similarities what we are going through in the world, not necessarily in our country, but all places. The right wing extremism and the suppression of the common people. And what was interesting is it was a challenge for us, because traditionally for the last many years we've been working on gender issues. And it was so easy for the bigger group to label this play as gender insensitive. Because if you read through the play, there's so much of body shaming happening, so much of objectification of the women's body that is happening. So it was very easy for the bigger group to discount this as a gender insensitive play. But then we had to sit together and think that there is a reason why there is no man in the play. This is an all-woman play. Why would Lorca write an all-woman play and not include a single man in it? And when almost looks like the central character is a man. And then we said, yes, the reason is gender has to be taken away from the equation. If you take gender away from the equation, then the story becomes that of oppression. Then you're no longer worried about a man demeaning a woman or objectifying a body for a man. Then you're talking about suppression of expression, you're talking about suppression of thoughts, you're talking about confinement, you're talking about just bombarding with one's own, with the powerful over the powerless. And then you have the social issues there, the social classes, the haves and the have-nots. And all those elements are there in the play. And so it took us, I would say, 6 months to break the play down and the entire group to come on one page on what the play actually wants to say. And then we were all of us were sort of on the same page that yes, we want to do this.
Right. Right. So, you talked about the freedom of expression and the various emotions. So, probably the next question may have some similar, answer to it. But I would like to know that. So there's this famous play of Federico Garcia Lorca deals with repression and the yearning for freedom. So,
Yes.
how are you, Shomik, and your team through this play helping your so rather, how are you helping your performers
Mm.
understand and portray these complex emotions? So tell us a little bit, give us a little view about, the way you go about, when you are preparing and rehearsing.
Right. So as I said that we have a process of our theater practice when we said we do workshops
Yeah.
continually, irrespective of a play being performed or not.
Hmm.
So as far as the acting skills part of it, most of our actors are prepared. But then comes to prepare for the role and the play. So that was the 6 months preparation that we talked about. So we would read the play multiple times within the group, try to understand what's there in between. So that's more a tabletop exercise. We sit down and say, for example, you said freedom. So there are very strong element of the yearning for freedom within the story, and where Adela, the youngest daughter, and the eldest character Maria Josefa, the mother, mm, are the ones who are free, who are expressing freedom because they don't care. The youngest and the eldest, they don't care, right?
Yeah.
And it's so easy for the eldest to be say that she's senile. That's what we do in real life also. Oh, he's senile. He can say whatever he wants. And the youngest, she's fearless. So Adela and Maria Josefa are expressing their freedom, and the others also want to, but cannot because they have gotten used to live in a chained situation. Some of them find comfort in a oppressed situation because it's a comfort zone.
Mm.
It's a known zone. Now, how do we go about this? So, when we did Adela, and we wanted her to, so we had an exercise that how would you express freedom? Think of your own situations where you felt that you want to get out of this, and how would you express yourselves if you actually got out of it? So we went through series of these exercises that uh, more personal exercises. And for the others, we said that you want to get out of it, imagine, and you're not being able to get out of it. So imagine sitting in a office meeting and you seriously want to get out of this meeting, you're absolutely bored, but you cannot. How would you do it? Just sit there, simulate, do it. So step by step we went, and then we talked about, okay, you're sitting in a classroom, you are not understanding anything, you have friends outside waiting for you for a film, and you have to rush, and you're not being able to get out. What would you do sitting there? What sort of excuse would you make to get out? So these sort of exercises we put in improvisations, and then at the very end we come to the play. And so the aim is to liberate the actors from the text, because the text comes anyway. So that's what we that's one of the ways that we do it. And uh, and then we also talk about objects and how do we devise the how does our how should our stage look like. One is going through a very realistic stage the way the playwright describes,
Mhm.
and the other is to think elsewhere, because we very seriously want to come out. We don't want the audience to go with a story of you know love, betrayal, and hate. They will listen to the story, they will see the story happening, but they have to understand what's going on behind it. So we ask them, what are your symbols of oppression, and what would be your symbol of freedom? So the entire group given their ideas. Some said chains, locks, a police uniform, a bayonet, heavy boots, a television screen. So things like that people would express. And we thought, okay, let's see if we can get them on stage. You know, people, we might not be talking about chains and locks, but if there are chains and locks out there in the background, people will understand, will try to start thinking that, okay, what's the chain doing there? What's the lock doing there?
Interesting, very interesting. So Shomik, so this is after all a Spanish play, yeah,
Hmm,
being staged in Delhi.
hmm,
So of course, there will be genuine theater lovers with experience of having read plays beyond India, but India and Spain traditionally have not had a very close sort of bilateral relationship. Yes, there are a lot of things happening recently that sort of can make can give some space for cultural exchanges as well. But generally, I've seen Spain is not the Spanish people are not very culturally aware about India, and
hmm,
in India, of course, there is a strong Hispanic group of which I'm also part of, being myself a Spanish teacher. But beyond that group, a sort of a layman person would probably not have heard of this play. So my
hmm.
question, it may be a little naive, but nevertheless, would like to ask you that: Are you adapting in any way La Casa de Bernarda Alba to the cultural context of Delhi, or you are keeping it close to its original Spanish setting? What I want to know is that if an average Delhi person wants to watch the play, is there some way that he can relate to it? Have you tried to bring in some sort of cultural fusion here, or you have you've been very clear about keeping it to its original Spanish setting?
Hmm. See, when we do these plays, mm, because we have done quite a few adaptations from other languages. Now, the principle that I follow is, if I am, of course, I couldn't do this play in Spanish because I'm not,
Mhm.
none of us are conversant with the language. So we are doing it in English. And the version that I have read is the official translation of English in English. But if I'm adapting a play into an Indian language, I prefer to change the context to an Indian setting also,
Mhm.
because somehow that gives me a clash. So we did Ibsen in Indian languages. So I changed the context also to an Indian context. So when we did Doll's House or we did The Ghosts,
Mhm.
because somehow I feel, you know, when I'm speaking in Hindi, I'm talking about very, American or British cultures.
Mhm.
It doesn't work for me. But Bernarda Alba is a very typical case. It has a very strong storyline,
Mhm.
and the storyline, if I try to adapt that into an Indian story, a Delhi story or any other story, I would lose the in between, the lines in between there. So I have not tried to adapt it. Uh, I've tried to, so that it has operated in two different ways. One is the stage setting is what we want to express. So as I said, we talked about, and so we want the stage setting to look to express what the play actually wants to say, or rather what we want to say, right? And so that's how the stage setting is. So we will have barbed wires, we'll have locks, we'll have boots, right? Uh, but the story stays the same. We've not changed that, and this particular story in an Indian setting would make it a very sleazy one. So you have to work much more harder, and the chances of it being misinterpreted is much higher. But and also we have tried to keep to, so since we have not changed it, there are certain aspects we've tried to be as close to a Spanish setting as much as possible. within our limited resources and whatever we have. Like the costumes are being designed by Paromita, who is a fashion designer. She has researched on the era and the period and the Spanish culture. So the costumes we are trying to be as close as possible that would have been used. The music is well researched. So the background score is being designed by somebody called Sam Shubhashi Shah. He's based in Bombay, and he has done a lot of research on Spanish music for this particular purpose. So, for example, we use a lot of nylon string guitar uh, in the background score. We use a lot of mandolin. A lot of these compositions, which is tried to be as close to the Spanish culture as possible. So those are the two aspects we've tried to work on, uh, but we have not made any changes to the text, apart
Mhm.
from putting in some contemporary words,
Mhm.
which is similar, where they talk about librada. They say there's a lot of outsiders, immigrants coming in. So things
Mhm.
like that have been put in. And of course, the actors are from Delhi. So, so they speak the Delhi English, I must say. So,
Mm.
yeah. So that would be my answer to your question.
Very, very interesting. Uh, my next question is now coming to the Shapno Ekhon's tradition, of socially relevant theater. So keeping that in mind, so what key message do you hope, the production of this play, The House of Bernarda Alba, will convey to the audience?
Yeah, see, historically, and what I always believe is our job. See, many of us, we all have our own little thoughts. We all feel good or bad about things, right? And sometimes we feel very strongly, sometimes not so strongly. And there are some people who can get on the streets, protest, write letters, sing songs in protest or in support of certain things. Our language is theater. We express ourselves through theater, and theater doesn't have a role to bring about social change. You know, if somebody tells me what has changed with your theater, I would say nothing. But at least we have conveyed what we think about things. Sometimes we can do it directly, bluntly, and sometimes it has to be done in the garb of something else. Like when we did Manohar Kahaniya, when we were talking about the rape statistics in India, we actually went to different street corners in Delhi and spoke about it. Our shows were cancelled in Kolkata on the last moment because we were talking about the Park Street rape case and this government's apathy towards it. So we have done that directly, but there are certain things which can be conveyed through a story. And as our mentor often says that when you are on the stage, if you have 100 people on in the audience, maybe 80 of them will go with the story that you have said. But there'll be 20 people who will be able to read behind the story. That's your success. And our aim is to increase that 20 to 30 to 40 to 50, and someday we'll reach there. But we'll keep on saying what we wanted to say. At least one person will go back with the awareness, yes. At least we'll think about it, may not agree with what we are saying. So that's what our aim is, that think, don't be immune to things that are happening. It's not necessary that everybody will have to express and protest and do something drastic, jump off the roof. Not necessary. But be aware and take your stance, act when necessary.
Fantastic, Shomik. It's been an absolute pleasure to hear you speak about your theatre group and about this upcoming play. So once again, I would like to tell my viewers that this play is going to be staged on the 13th of December at 6:30 p.m. at the LGT Auditorium. Am I right?
LTG Auditorium, yeah.
LTG Auditorium, and the tickets are available on Book My Show as well as at the site. So please do go and visit and watch the play. I'm sure that it'll really give a lot of food for thought for you, and just generally enjoy a Spanish play, which is very rarely done in Delhi. So thank you so much. As we say in Spanish, Shomik, muchísimas gracias. Thank you very much for your time,
Thank
and
you very much. It was a wonderful experience talking to you.
to hear you, talk about Sia Park, its history, and then to go towards this play. It's been an enriching, experience for me to hear, and I hope for my viewers as well. And until the next episode, hasta el siguiente capítulo de Español por Dentro. Ciao.
Good night.